Welcome to another podcast. It's been a while. We are in Ireland at the moment, and we are with an Australian, Shannon. So she's joining us for the podcast. So we're in a park in Ireland, in Dublin at the moment, but unusual, but we are here. So I've got a few questions for Shannon. So welcome. Thank you for inviting me to Dublin as well, to Ireland.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me on.
So she is from Australia, but she's visiting family in Ireland at the moment, and I was in Europe at the same time, so we decided to meet up and do a quick podcast while we're here.
It worked out well.
Yeah, it worked out really well. So, I introduced you. So tell me, where were you born and raised? In Australia?
Yeah, in Australia. I was born in Western Sydney, in Windsor, and I grew up there most of my life. I spent a bit of time on the Gold Coast and ended up back in Sydney. Now I'm between Sydney and Queensland for work. I'm a bit all over the place, travelling with the cars and trying to do more social media stuff and travel that way.
So how did your dad's Irish, right? I think you told me that.
Yeah, my dad's Irish and my mum's from Sydney. She's Australian, born in Sydney.
And that's kind of how you ended up here in Ireland at the moment, to visit family.
Yeah.
So where did your love for wheeling start?
So my parents always had four-wheel drives growing up. Like we had a 100 series Land Cruiser. That's like the oldest car that I remember. I think we had that till I was about 10 or 11. And so we started going on four-wheel drive charity trips. We'd been to Fraser as kids. We went on 2 Just for Kids charity trips where we got to do Cape York for one of them. Nice. And Simpson Desert for the other. And that was such a cool experience as a kid, like going out to rural communities and seeing like the schools and the Aboriginal kids and donating sporting equipment, being able to spend some time with them in the schools, as well as go wheeling and see Australia that way. So that definitely kind of like ingrained it in me. Like I need to get my own four-wheel drive so I can do this. And when I have kids one day, do the same thing for them.
For them, travel Australia and wheel.
Yeah. I mean, it's a better education than you could get in schools. My parents actually had trouble taking us out of school for the times that we were on those trips. And my mom would have arguments with the schools and say, well, this is going to teach them more than you ever could in a classroom. So, and it did. So.
Yeah, that's very true. Traveling teaches a lot.
Yeah.
What was your very first four-wheel drive you bought?
An N70 Hilux, so same as you. It was a space cab, champagne silver. Oh. I think it had like 175,000 on the clock when I bought it.
Not bad.
And my mum and dad came and checked it out with me. They never wanted me to buy a four-wheel drive. So I didn't actually get one until I was like 19. And I kind of bit the bullet and said, nah, this is what I want to do. So went and bought the Hilux as my first 4B and I loved it.
Did you mod it a lot, or was it kind of standard-ish?
It was pretty standard. It had a 2-inch lift when I bought it. It was on 31s. I put 33s on it, muddies. I put a dog box on it, like a kind of bit more storage, and I think I had a fridge in the back. And then that was it. I changed the headlights, like basic little mods for P-Plate, a Hilux owner, and it did everything that I wanted it to for the year that I had it. And then I kind of realized, right, well, I could solid axle swap it in the front, or I could go to like a cruiser and have my dream car, which I ended up doing.
So you only had the Hilux for a year, and then you sold it for the cruiser. You got the cruiser then.
Yeah.
And your first car was a Subaru, correct?
Yes, yeah, Subaru XV, little weapon.
And you still have it?
I still have it, yeah.
It's a daily.
It's amazing, honestly. It's pretty safe car and like all-wheel drive. Like I'm doing still like country roads and stuff. Like it is a good car. It's lacking with like the bull bar side, and I nearly rode it off probably 6 months ago by hitting a roo. So I think it's.
You can get a bar for it somewhere.
Maybe. I'll have to look into it a bit more.
Add a bit of a lift, some all-terrains and a bar, and something.
Another little wheeling rig.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about your current cruiser build. You've got the cruiser. Tell me about the mods you've done to it. It's not standard anymore at all.
Definitely not.
Did you buy it standard?
It was standard, yeah. It had a 2-inch lift and a GVM upgrade, which they all need because you put any amount of weight on them, they go overweight. It had 31s, 2-inch lift. It had just a standard steel tray on it. I put an ARB bull bar on it. and it still had like the factory snorkel on it, which I hated at the time. And I've had the Cruiser for 4 years now. It's just been a really slow build. Like initially it was, doing everything myself, super budget. Like when the money came in, I'd do something else. Changing up the looks, changing up suspension, like seeing how I wanted it to perform as I've like grown in wheeling as well. So like the more I've learnt, the more I've been able to change and build it properly.
So what have you done to it? List some of the mods you've done.
Currently it's just come back from suspension. It's a brand new kit that we've developed with Solve Off-Road and D-Wiz diffs. So they've done fully built brace diffs front and rear. So it's fixed the track problem in the rear because Toyota made the rear axle like width shorter, rear diff shorter for some reason. So fixed that and then widened it again. So it's 50 mil total wider than any other 79 on the road.
And the front and back axles are not the same length?
Yes, yeah. So it ends up being the width of an 80 series pretty much, which it has been insane to wheel with off-road now, like the stability off-road, just that little bit of an increase has helped so much. And it's currently sitting at a 3-inch lift, which lowered it again. So then it's lower and wider, so it feels way more stable on the tracks.
That's good.
It's currently sitting on 37s, which is not ideal to daily, but it's 3-inch lift, wider all around, 37s. I've just had reductions done in the transfer case, so it crawls really, really nice and slow now, which is good for our kind of tracks at home where we're doing rock crawling. You don't want to be sending and breaking stuff. You want to feel safe and stable and just see how the car goes on its own speed, basically.
And you've got a tray setup on the back as well?
Yes, yeah. They worked with Norseco in Tamworth and I helped them design that setup. They were doing tube headboard before that and I said we'd want to do something different with them. So we decided full folded headboard and canopy setup, and then they've done the fit out on the interior of that as well, done a pantry and a fridge cage. There'll be drawers going in the other side once 12 volt power goes in. And it's got trundles, under tray drawers, like there's heaps of storage in it. It's awesome for the touring side of it. And the canopy's jack off. So I have the best of both worlds. Like I can take the canopy off, go wheeling, like hard wheeling.
With just a tray on the back.
Yeah.
And what don't you like about the Cruiser, and what future mods would you do?
At the moment, like currently, what I didn't like before I left was like I had it for 4 years. It was never tuned. As soon as I put the canopy on and I had all the weight, it was really, really like sluggish. 37s, didn't want to go. Would take forever to wind up on the road, and that's currently being fixed at the moment while I'm overseas. Like that'll lead into another question, I think, with it getting tuned. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. Do you want to like go to that question?
We can jump to that question. Let me just find it here for a second. Where is it? Oh, here. Billy Game said he saw your rig at Tuneworks. What's getting done to it?
So yeah, the rig's at Tuneworks at the moment. I've been talking to them for a little while since the 4-wheel drive show, and kind of bit the bullet finally and was like, yeah, okay, this needs doing. It needed to get a health check to see where the injectors were at. It's at about 280,000 Ks at the moment, which is like 300,000 is like where you should be like getting it checked and seeing if the injectors need doing. So I sent it to them and gave them a list of stuff that I basically wanted to do to it. I wanted to get the injectors done anyway, get it checked out. If they're doing injectors and intake clean, they may as well do starter as well, because Toyota decided to put the starter in the V there. Like, so they're doing intake clean, injectors, starter, tune, and it's
Is it just a stage 1 tune you're doing?
It's a 3-stage tune that they're doing.
Okay.
And then they're doing hard cut Lemmy as well.
You
for wank factor.
You have to send me a video when it's done.
It'll sound really cool. And I had the DPF deleted the week before the 4-wheel drive show as well, or a week after the 4-wheel drive show as well. So
do you know what new figures they're going to push?
I really don't know. I'm not really like too fussed on figures. Any kind of wake up tune for it will be great for the weight, and if I need a tow. I don't need any crazy figures. I just need to push the 37s. Like as long as it does that and it's not super sluggish, then I think I'd be happy with it. And I think with the new injectors, when they tested the old ones, like they said that they were on their way out, and it was pretty much just a fail. So it's going to be a completely different car to drive once I get it back.
So you're doing injectors, cleaning, and then this tune as well, all at once?
Yeah, everything's getting done at once.
And your exhaust system still standard?
It's a 3.5-inch exhaust, and then the DPF is
not there anymore.
Non-existent anymore. It's there, but you know.
A question with your axles being lengthened. I think if I'm correct, there's a rule in Australia that your wheels may not poke out of your body, correct?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So does it now poke out?
It does, yes. To fix that, like I already have wider flares on the front. I will probably, if they want to be picky and get me for it, I'd have to put rubber garden edging on there as well.
On the front?
On the front, yeah. And the rear, I'm able to fix by moving the alloy guards out. So I just have to step them out, which I haven't had a chance to do yet because they really are pretty obvious. If you look at the car from the front, there's like, you could see like the whole wheel from the bottom, but there's about that much sticking out from
the rear.
Yeah. So I'll definitely get onto that once I'm back in Australia, I pick it all up because it goes for engineering then after that. So that's the best thing about the kit that I did with Solvendy is it's fully engineerable post-rego. Which is like our biggest problem in Australia is once the cars are registered, they really restrict on like what you can and can't mod. So I was really limited in what I could and couldn't do suspension-wise, and then try and have it all legal now so that I'm not getting harassed by the police. Because it really is a big thing in Australia. Like they really crack down on cars and fine people for the smallest things. Like even engineered cars, they'll try and go for them as well. So.
And tell me a little bit more about the wheeling in Australia. Like, explain to me the toughest wheeling you've done in Australia that you've done with your cruiser. What's the toughest track you've done?
I want to say it was when I first started. Like I don't know, the comparisons between when I started and what I do now. Like if I was doing some of the tracks that I've done recently when I first got the car, I would have been like, that's insane. Like now I'm like kind of getting a bit more calm with wheeling. My opinions change, I guess, but probably still to this day, like the hardest and the sketchiest track that I've done was Catherine Hill Bay, which is near Newcastle. You're not able to get in there now, I believe, and it was just huge rock steps, like sheer like steep steps, and just off camber throwing the car around, and that was like the first time that I nearly rolled the car, and I'd only had it for about 3 months at that point, so it was like a scary situation. It ended in tears and some winching.
But he kept on his wheels?
Yes, yeah, luckily.
Barely.
Yeah. But that's probably one of the hardest. Now, a lot of the stuff we do, it's just pushing the car to its limits and like breaking stuff. And that's where I'm like, right, it's hard if we've broken something and then you got to go again and you break it again. Like there's a track that I've done. It's called Whiteman's Lane. It's also in Watergans in Newcastle. I haven't done that track without breaking something yet.
Is that the one where you broke the hub at recently?
And not recent. That's a different track. My car really likes to break hubs. But Whiteman's, I've done hubs like every time, same place pretty much, and it just, my car doesn't like it. So I'm still yet to do a redemption run there, but that is a pretty hard track.
And what's your favourite track or area to wheel in Australia?
I love the Sydney region. Like I grew up wheeling around there. Within 3 hours, we have like 3 major areas where we can wheel, and it's all hard rock crawling. So we have Watergans in Newcastle. We have Nowra, which is, why can't I think of the name of the place? There's some really hard tracks in Nowra as well. It'll come to me later. And then we have Lithgow, which is like probably the closest is like an hour from home. And that was where I first really started wheeling with the Hilux.
And so I know we might be doing Cape York together next year.
Yeah.
What are some like bucket list tours you still want to do in Oz?
So I definitely want to get to Tassie. Like I love watching the videos on Tassie and seeing like that looks insane. Like there's nothing else like it. And like some of the people that are doing that stuff, like there's such heavily modified cars as well. And like now mine's kind of getting to that stage. It's still a Leaf in the rear, but like I want to go there just to say, you know.
But Tassie doesn't have much flexing, is it? It's more mud and mud bogs.
There's a lot of rock crawling too there. Like there's, I believe it's called Waterfall Track down there.
Yes.
Like that's insane off-camber rock crawling, like that kind of stuff. That's definitely one of the bucket list things. Cape has always been on the bucket list after doing it as a kid with my family.
What car did you do it back then?
The 100 Series.
100 Series.
Yeah. So it's still IFS in the front as well. And all the rental cars. So some people rented cars to do those charity trips as well. And then we had our own 100 Series. Everyone did the same damage on all the tracks, like doing gunshot and stuff. Everyone dented the rear quarters and folded side steps.
So we might be doing Cape York next year with you.
Yeah.
I'll be passenger princess with you. So that'll be fun.
That'll be cool.
You haven't done it with your cruiser yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
Do you think it'll handle it well?
I think it'll handle it really well. Yeah.
Take some spare hubs along?
Yeah, definitely hubs. That's my main spare that I bring now. Like I always have like at least 3 in my car because I'm like, if we're doing hard stuff like that, it's something that is always going to fail, especially running chromoly axles now. And speaking to people, they're like, don't change them to manual, because if you change to manual locking hubs from the factory auto locking hubs, it will do a diff rather than just break a hub. And a hub's a lot cheaper than...
And easier to replace.
Yes, exactly.
What are the most common things you break on or what have you broken on your car before, except for hubs now?
Before I had this new suspension set up with the chromolis, it was still hubs, a lot, and axles. So I never snapped an axle completely, but I'd always shear the ends of them in the front. So I was always replacing that, because then the hubs aren't going to work and they're not going to lock in properly. You won't have your lockers. So I was always replacing them, and then I completely twisted a rear axle and it messed up the diff lock sleeve where the axle actually runs into the diff lock. So that was a bit of a dodgy fix for a little while. We just whacked a new axle back in and it was kind of stuck in there. My rear diff lock did not like to engage and disengage for a while. But it was mostly just axles, yeah. And other than that, I didn't really break anything substantial. It was just damage, like panel damage, I guess.
And you've got bead locks on, right?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Have you had them for a while?
I've had them on about, it'll be almost a year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually I didn't really wheel properly with the bead locks until the last few months when I was home in Oz. And the difference in like wheeling with those is insane. Like it's so much easier to crawl with them, and you can drop them to lower pressures, get more traction, like.
And there was something else I was going to ask now. What was it? Okay, I'll get back to that. What is, you've done lots of traveling, like outside of Oz now. You've done a lot of traveling outside. What's the favorite country you've visited, you would say?
I think we're sitting in it. I love Ireland because it's like, my dad's from here. It's like my second home, basically. Yeah. I love getting home and seeing my family, and it's such a like unique experience where I don't feel like I'm traveling. It feels like home. Like, I don't know.
Because you can't do wheeling here.
No, I know. I wish I could do wheeling here. There's definitely heaps of countries on the list that are going to be like wheeling specific trips. But I really love, other than Ireland, like I really love Switzerland. I only spent a few days there, so I'm like itching to get back there and do a bit more hiking, maybe go in snow season, do some snowboarding, and just see more of it because there's so much more that I missed.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing about doing flying visits. Like you look back or you see something on socials later and you're like, why didn't I go there?
Well, you can always go back and do it.
Yeah.
So what are some of the bucket list countries you still want to visit?
Now, South Africa, obviously.
That'll be next year. That'll be next year.
Yeah,
You'll come
hopefully.
visit.
End of the year next year, I think, if we plan a big wheeling trip, that will...
We'll do Southern Africa. So South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, maybe Lesotho. We'll see how much time you're there for, but we'll show you some proper...
Yeah.
Might not be as tough wheeling, but we'll do more of a tour or overlanding than hard wheeling.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a plan. That's definitely like high up on the list now.
But you've done Tanzania. So you've seen the wildlife.
Tanzania for the wildlife, and then Morocco was like...
For the desert.
Yeah, the desert.
And they let you drive.
Yes, that was really, really cool. We had the best guides. Like, I actually had no idea they were going to let me drive. I had Mum had told them. I didn't even say anything about being into four-wheel driving. Mum was like, Shannon does this, and Shannon has this big car, and show them your car, Shannon. And then when we got to the Sahara, they were like, righto, get in, you're driving the Prado. So I was driving me, the guide, the driver, and my mum and sister around the Sahara Desert, which is like the craziest experience. First time driving left-hand drive as well. So it was like really confusing trying to figure out how to shift. Yeah. I was like, wait, what gear am I in? Like, and I'm like going to change and I'd like hit the door because I'm used to shifting on this side.
Did you get stuck?
No.
That's
we
good.
weren't really like in a crazy part of the sand dunes, and we were kind of just traveling around seeing like some ruins and stuff like that, and some nomad villages. So we did a little bit of dune driving, but other than that, it was just mainly like the flats, which are a bit rocky, and it was pretty cool.
So what's your favorite terrain to wheel in Australia?
I really like rock crawling. Like I haven't really done that much on sand. Like I kind of generally stay away from it. I'm more like I've built the car for rock crawling, and it has the like ability to do touring and stuff as well now, but I really liked that it was this car that I have a lot of friends that hard wheel with 79s now as well, but it's not something that you would see like every day that people tend to beat up, and it has its battle scars now as well. So
when you go wheeling, you said you take the canopy off, but have you done hard wheeling with the canopy on still?
Not yet, no.
Because the top heavy, too much.
It's really top heavy, yeah. When I do the Cape, I feel like that will be a bit of a test because...
You're going to have to take the canopy with.
Yeah. The canopy will have to come with just to have all the power, the fridge, rooftop tent, like all that. So that'll be a test. I'd like to get out before and see how it goes, just get used to like where it's gonna
Have
go.
you got a winch on your rig?
Yeah, I have a winch,
good.
front winch, yeah. I'd like to put a rear winch on it eventually, but the way it's set up at the moment with the trundle, it's not like doable.
And so we've spoken about this, but you work in the mining industry, correct?
Yeah, I do.
And can you explain roughly, you work with the rigs or you fix the vehicles?
I'm operating the machinery for the maintenance workshops at the moment. So I'm able to drive the big cat trucks. I can drive graders. I can move dozers.
And you also work on them all?
Yeah. I do a little bit. My role changes from day to day. So I'm able to do servicing on them, sometimes help with component change-out crews, so engine and transmission change-outs. It really varies from day to day. Like I was very lucky in the role that I got where I was able to move around and do a few different things, work with fitters, work with auto sparkies, learn as much as I could while I'm in that role. And then I'm staying on with them for another 4 years in apprenticeship now.
So do you do a lot of the modifications and fixes in your vehicle yourself because you've got kind of a background in all of this?
Yeah, I have done a lot of it myself, like initially. With the new setup, it all had to be done by the diff builders and by Solve Off-Road, just purely because of the engineering side of it. They can't certify it unless a certified mechanic has worked on it. So that was kind of out of my hands, which was really tough not to have the rig and just be like, here it is, like, I'll see it when it comes back. Like, that's different. Like, initially when I got the rig, I couldn't afford to like pay people to do the stuff. So I was like dropping leaves out on the ground and changing leaves to make the lift bigger and doing all this different stuff, taking out retainers to make it flex better and changing coils and shocks and just, I think I changed the rig like every 6 months for the first 2 years I had it. So,
what's the biggest like change or replacement or fix you have to done yourself on your rig?
I'm not really sure.
Gearbox?
No, I've never done a gearbox in it. That's what I'm worried about now with the tune. I'm like, I'll do a gearbox now for sure. No, nothing. It's honestly been the best car. Like, it hasn't really, like, touch wood, but it hasn't really had any major issues. Like, honestly, it's been good. And I'm not gonna like destroy my cars. I really like baby it. Like, I'm not going out and putting rear lockers on and doing skids like.
Oops.
But yeah, nothing really major. Like, other than pulling axles and stuff on the side of the tracks and hubs and.
And you do that all yourself?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It's been good. It's a good car.
So, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? With your rig, do you see yourself doing the same rig, more touring, more wheeling? What's your plans?
Definitely think, like, I want to make it pretty even. I'd love to be doing like equal amount of wheeling, equal amount of touring, showing people that they can get out and see their country this way and put their rigs to the test, have a bit of fun. I'd like to do more in social media side. Like, in 5 years, I'll be done with my qualifications. I'd love to just get on the road, try and do a lap of Australia maybe first. Like, cool. That's every Aussie's dream, I think.
It is.
Anyone that's into four-wheel driving knows, like, that's the dream. Do a lap of Australia, just meet people, cruise around, and
see Australia.
Yeah. Like,
how long would a lap like that take? I know a lot of people do it. I just can't remember the.
I think like a lot of people do like a year, because that's a good amount of time to figure out like where you want to be. If you want to stop somewhere, you have the option to stop somewhere for longer. If you need to work, like, you can stop for a few months, work. Like, I think a lot of people do it that way. I'd like to just get in and go and not have to work, hopefully. Like, I'll save up a bit of money to do that.
Yeah.
And then just see where it takes me. Like, everyone does a lot of the coast that way, but then, like, I'd like to do inland offshoots and go and see some stuff that I've seen as a kid, because I've been lucky enough to, like, have been to every state in Australia and traveled a lot with my family, but it's a whole different world doing it on your own with your rig and four-wheel drive tracks and all that.
And have you done Fraser Island before?
I have as a kid, but not with my rig as well. My parents have taken me there twice.
Do you recall memories from it?
Yeah. One of the times we were staying in the lodge, though. We weren't camping. So it was a bit of a different experience. I remember, like, there with all the kookaburras and the wild animals out there at the lodge, and it's like a really cool experience. Driving along the beaches, seeing the wrecks there, which is like, I think it's the Mahino wreck on Fraser. Like, it's the biggest tourist attraction for people with four-wheel drives, and everyone like sits there and takes photos with it, and the dingoes obviously as well.
The dingoes.
Yeah.
I've only seen one dingo in Australia, but that was at the on Phillip Island Zoo. But I've never seen a wild dingo, so that'll be cool to see.
Fraser Island has the highest population of purebred dingoes in Australia. So they're like pretty much all the golden dingo style, like typical dingo. So it'd be really cool to get over there. I could probably in the next 6 months, I reckon, do a Fraser trip.
Is it close to you?
From where I'm living at the moment, it's probably like 10 hours, I'd say.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back to the Cape York trip to explain to people how far Cape York is actually away, because it's all the way up north, am I correct?
Yeah.
It's the Northern Territory, no?
No, it's still in
Just
Queensland. Yeah.
It's
just far north Queensland. Yeah.
But how far is it from Sydney to Cape York? To the start of it?
I have no idea, actually.
But it's it's like...
I think 30, 40 hours?
Wow.
I don't know.
But it's a trek. It's not like 5 hours. It's
Yeah, I actually have no idea. I'm not sure. It's a long way. Like Australia's a huge place.
Yeah.
And for me to get to, like, from work back to home in Sydney is like 20 hours of like driving straight, which I obviously don't do straight because that's not safe.
Yeah.
But like it's a long way. Like it's such a vast country, and everyone that says they're gonna come over and stay for a few weeks, I'm like, no, it's not long enough.
Yeah, no, Australia is massive. Let's jump to some Instagram questions. Both of us put up some like questionnaire for people to ask some questions.
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually something we should have said at the start. Bushlife Africa, Connor from Bushlife Africa, wants to know, how do we know each other?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, tell us a story. We've
I
had this question 1,000 times on our little
Yeah.
trip to Ireland already.
Well, I think I commented on one of your posts on Instagram and I tagged one of my friends. I was like, we have to go to South Africa. This looks insane. And it was one of the tour groups that you were running at the time because you do four-wheel drive tours.
I took the group to the tunnel tour, and then Roland from My Life in Africa almost put his droopy on its side.
Oh,
and I made a little like reel about that, and then you saw that.
yeah. And then we just started talking from there.
Yeah.
And you were actually in Australia like a few weeks ago, and I was already on my Europe
We
trip.
missed each other with like a week.
Yeah. And we would have caught up if I was still in Australia there, but you ended up coming to Ireland instead. This is actually the first time. We only met like a few days ago. So,
3 or 4 days ago.
yeah.
Yeah, so I was in Oz for 2 weeks. Then you linked me up with Steph from Off Main.
Yep.
So I did a Victorian High Country, semi-Victorian High Country tour with her. And then we figured out that I'm coming to Europe and you're still here for like 5 days when I'm in Europe. So I decided just to fly straight to Ireland and meet up with you.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting.
Now we're filming a podcast in a
Dublin.
park. That's so random, right?
Very spontaneous and random, but it's been good.
It's been a good trip.
Okay, Ignis wants to know, is it easier or more difficult for a female these days to enter the 4x4 scene as an influencer? Or just 4x4 scene, we don't have to have
Yeah,
influencers.
yeah. Well, I never like intended to become an influencer through all this. It was just like I wanted to build my car the way I did, and then people liked it. But I think it's definitely more difficult now as a female because there's a lot more people coming through that are not using it for travel, and they're not like, I don't know, they're not using it for the way it's meant to be with full driving and
Not
touring.
authentic knowledge.
Yeah,
just
it's not authentic.
for
and-
for Instagram.
yeah, it's for the influencing and for like trying to get famous and like incorporating other platforms into that as well, you know?
Yeah,
Like-
we know. You said it to me earlier, and we have the same problem in South Africa. Not problem, just frustration, I guess, that every person who's buying a rig now has their own page.
Yeah.
And you have the same in Australia as well. Every second person has a page about
Yeah.
their rig, about their build, about their tours.
Exactly.
So it's kind of getting oversaturated, if I can say it that
I
way.
think so, yeah. And not being in it for the right reasons, and then highly modifying cars that are completely illegal, I think, as well, and then showing them off because people go, these are the wildest things, like they look crazy, and then like everyone wants to do the same thing, and then people get done by the cops for it.
Yeah.
And they go, but I see all these other people doing it and getting away with it. That's why, like, I think I'm focusing more on like getting it engineered and having it all legit and showing people you can do this properly and it's not going to cost you, like, I mean, a fine and
Yeah.
loss of your car or license. Like,
And it's also like all the gear, no idea. They get the car, rig it out completely, and then they have no knowledge, no seat time. I don't know them, but I know it happens in South Africa where people buy a brand new Cruiser or a brand new Hilux before they even get ownership of it. It goes to a fitment center,
yeah,
gets kitted, category kitted from top to toe, everything. 35s, 37s, or we don't really have 37s in South Africa, only 35s.
yeah,
Roof rack, rooftop tent, you name it, everything. But then they don't have the experience and the knowledge. They just take it as is. It's a super capable vehicle. I mean, a standard vehicle is capable.
yeah.
But now, like you said, it's top heavy. You've got big tires on it.
Yeah,
Um,
it is a dangerous, like, it's a dangerous, like, it's extreme. Don't want to say extreme sport because someone will be like, it's not an extreme sport. But, like, it is, full driving is and can be really dangerous. Like, I understand people like kitting out their cars and wanting to have the best and not having any knowledge, but like take it easy and
Start
like
slow.
learn, like learn as you go. Like that's what the greatest thing for me was, like starting young as a kid, like learning from my parents and stuff, and then just picking up myself, learning from friends. Like,
and starting with a more standard vehicle.
Yeah.
And then now upgrading to a cruiser with 37. So you've got that seat time already over the 5 years, let's say, from wheeling yourself, let alone with your parents, and then now pushing it further.
Exactly, yeah.
This is the funny question I was going to show you earlier.
What?
Ines wants to know, is your one snorkel Bluetooth?
Yeah, it is. I can actually get it hooked up. I was looking at doing it recently, but it's about $8,000. And I was like, I'd rather kind of put that money into a trip.
So she's got dual snorkels for those that want to know.
So one of them is Bluetooth, but I like symmetry, okay? My whole car is like pretty symmetrical. It looks good. It's pretty common in Australia for people to just have a Bluetooth snorkel, and there's really no need. Like, I'm not pushing insane power. I don't need any more air intake than it has at the moment. So, like, it's probably gonna stay Bluetooth for a while until I, like, bite the bullet and get enough hate and go, all right, I'm gonna make it.
But if you add it, isn't it that it runs the intake over the engine then? I
don't know a lot about cars, to be fair. I don't know.
Because I've seen that if they do the dual snorkel, because your airbox is on the one side, it tends, I've seen it somewhere once.
No, so they do a second airbox. And I believe like it tees into, so like the intake pipe's there, I believe it just tees into the intake pipe.
Because I've seen where someone's modded, but it's probably just a homemade mod, but it went over the engine. So I was like, that's kind of pointless because now you're heating up.
No, they generally run the second snorkel, the way that I've seen it, into its own airbox.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, because they have to make the airboxes like a little bit smaller to fit, and then you have to do, the reason it costs so much is because you have to do a whole main battery relocation.
Yeah.
So you got to get all your wiring redone, run that either into the cab or like under the tray, and then that's where the major cost is, and then you fit another airbox in on that side. So.
Do you have a standard airbox, or do you have one of those sealed?
So I have an aftermarket airbox with the Perspex top, and it's got a pod filter at the moment. But I think I might go back to a panel filter just for like dust entry wise.
I was going to ask, how has the Perspex cover one handled it thus far?
This one by the company, like the one that I have at the moment, was one of their initial like first airboxes that they'd done for the 79, and from speaking to them, they've changed it now. But it actually cracked the Perspex, and it wasn't like, nothing really lined up with the bolts the way it went together. And I'm pretty careful with that stuff when I do it up, like make sure all the bolts are in, don't over tighten them. But because it was all kind of, must have been drilled separately and made separately, it didn't line up and it cracked the Perspex. So it's worked, it's done its job, but like after now having the tune and getting everything redone properly, I definitely want to protect the engine a bit better and maybe go back to a panel filter. Have a little bit less snorkel noise, I think.
Is it too noisy for you?
And I don't mind. I don't notice it. Like my car's sound deadened, completely sound deadened, so it's pretty quiet in there.
So Uber Africa, my dad, wants to know, have you heard of the Cape Road Rally and will you join us for a trip?
I would love to join the Cape Road Rally. It looks so much fun. Like, I actually hadn't watched the videos until I was with you the other day and you were showing me them. It was on my list to do. It was my to-do list, but I didn't get to it yet. But they look so much fun. Like, honestly, you were saying the wheeling in Australia looks hard. Like, the stuff that you guys are doing over there as well, it looks pretty insane. Like, we don't have any kind of dunes like that in Australia. Like, that is huge amounts of dunes, like massive areas where you guys are just messing around. The rock crawling as well, it's loose, it's steep, like it looks insane. And it looks so much fun. Like, I would so join on a Cape Road Rally if you guys...
It'll be interesting to see, like, your perspective come wheeling in South Africa, to see your perspective. Because, like we said, South Africans look at your things and be like, oh, that is such rough tracks and such tough tracks and such hard wheeling. And then you look at our content again and you're like, oh, our tracks are tough and hard. So we're thinking the exact like same thing of each other's countries.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to have you there as a person.
Yeah.
So I've toured Australia before, but I didn't do any hard wheeling. So I'd love to say, like, we'll do Cape York, and then there'll be some proper tracks, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Gunshot. That's on my list to see. I have to be in the car when we go down. I'll
Yeah.
just put a GoPro out somewhere, have someone else film,
Hand
and
the
then I'll
camera to someone else.
yeah, and I want to sit inside. But that'll be interesting to see the differences. So we'll have to plan that.
Yeah, for sure.
Then he also wants to know, my dad also wants to know, manual or automatic?
So the 79's manual. All the 70s, I believe, until this year's model, were made in manual. So the new ones, which are the 4-cylinder,
Yeah.
they've just brought them out in auto. So.
And what do you prefer?
I prefer driving manual, honestly. Like, my little Subi's automatic, and I, like, for long hauls, I don't know,
Yeah.
like, just that little motion of when you come into a town, you're downshifting. Like, it wakes me up a bit, it keeps me more alert, I don't know. Like, it's just nicer for me to drive. A lot of people, like, will just be like, nah, auto for forever, and, you know, you can't change their mind, but, like...
I think for wheeling, it depends what wheeling you do. But manual is just, I feel better for wheeling. You're more in control. And if something breaks or towing or something, you can't really tow auto. You can if you pop the thing out and if you tow really slowly, but manual's just easy. You can jump start it, push start it.
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
tow, you can select a gear, keep it in gear, but easier. So
Yeah.
I agree with the manual. 1028, Ashley wants to know, is it true that spiders eat people there?
No. What? I've never heard that in my life.
You guys
We have some big spiders, but they don't eat people.
But they're poisonous.
Yeah, they're definitely poisonous.
The media is a bit rough about Australia.
Yeah,
in
I
South
think
Africa.
we ride kangaroos to school.
Yeah. Oh, we ride lions to school in South Africa.
Oh, yeah.
But kangaroos are terrifying, though, to be honest.
They are, yeah.
Well, you've got kangaroos, you've got the possums, which are terrifying to me. At
They're not
night,
too
these things just look at you. Oh, no. Your koalas are not as bad. I always heard about the drop bears, but they actually don't. They just fall out of the tree. They don't actually like attack you or drop out of the tree to attack you. That's what Steph told me. Or do they?
I'll let her explain that to you next time she's in Oz. Drop bears are terrifying.
Oh, they really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got spiders and snakes, but we have them in South Africa as well. We've got very poisonous spiders and snakes. I am Jason 4x4 wants to know, what's your favorite mod on your 79?
I really love, like, the new suspension and the reductions just go hand in hand, I guess. Like, for wheeling, comfort, crawl mode, like, reductions are probably the greatest thing, which they don't actually make them anymore. So, oh my God, I'm like,
Bless you.
I've got a cough or something. No, so they're Mark's four-wheel drive transfer reductions, and they don't make them anymore. But I had a friend who kind of parted out his old 79, and he was really into wheeling. And he asked me first if I wanted his transfer case, and I was like, with the reductions, and I was like, yeah, of course. I actually asked my mate at Solve, I was like, should I get these? And he's like, if you don't, I will. And I was like, no, I want them. So that's made a huge difference in wheeling. Like, being able to crawl and feel safe is definitely my fave mod.
So you like to keep it slow and steady?
Yeah. I don't ever like to be sending stuff because I know that's when you break it. Certain things, yes, you do need a bit more momentum, but you figure that out as you wheel more, I think.
Yeah. L, like the letter, wants to know, what message would you want to tell to the next generation of wheelers?
That's a good one. I love that. Elle is really cool. I met her recently at a charity event. So I think, like, for future wheelers, like, I wouldn't be, like, I'd tell them not to be disheartened by the fact that stuff's closing down and people are kind of ruining it for people. There's still so much of, like, Australia and the world to see through traveling with cars, and you don't have to have the best cars, and people prove that on social media every day. Like, like you're saying, mod the Subaru. There's people in the States with Subarus, camping out of them and wheeling with them. Like, it doesn't have to be the biggest, most modified four-wheel drives.
Yep.
Like, there's so many really cool options and cheaper options just to get out there, and you can figure out what you want to do, whether you want to do touring, whether you want to do wheeling. Like, everyone that asks me what's like the best car to get for four-wheel driving, I'm like, go get an LN106 Hilux. Like, you can get them relatively cheap still, not as cheap as you used to be able to, but I have a mate that wheels the absolute crap out of an LN, and it is like folded every panel. He's cut the doors of it, and it goes so good. Like, people can just start slow, and like, it's not a huge race. Like, no one's ever better than anyone else. Like,
That's well said.
Yeah.
A standard vehicle is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Do good tires, do a 2-inch suspension lift, and you can get a lot of places.
Yeah.
You don't need to go with 37s.
Exactly.
If you're doing hard wheeling, yes, maybe.
Yeah.
But just to tour, you
Exactly.
get a good set of tires, muddies, or nice grip, know what PSI or bar to deflate them on the terrains you're on, and just a bit of lift, and the rest you go as time comes.
Exactly, yeah.
Aaron Vanguard Neela wants to know, ever had some stuck moments, either off-roading or working? How did you take the situation?
So I think I kind of mentioned it before, but when I like, not stuck, like, I have a really good stuck story. It's actually with my N70, and there was I can't even think of the name of the place now.
Which area was it in?
It was in like Western Sydney, but it's these like really well-known mud ruts that everyone goes to. Like, everyone that had four-wheel drives went to them. Is in an ex-army training ground, or like, it was an army training ground, so like, you weren't meant to be in there. So I wasn't in there, I swear. I went with my neighbor and a couple of his mates, and we were like, yeah, let's test out the Hilux. And we didn't realize, like, people told me afterwards, they actually like dig them out with diggers so that you get stuck in there, apparently. And I was like, oh yeah, like, we checked it with a stick, it looked fine, but didn't realize the entrance and the exit were like pretty well like straight. And luckily I had a winch on the Hilux. I had my recovery gear in my dog box, but my keys, it was locked, and my keys were on the ignition. So I went into this mud hole, like fully sunk down, water's coming in the doors, like, I'm stuck. We had to literally just run the winch out, wrap it around a tree, and hope for the best, which is so like sketchy. Like, I don't condone doing that. Like, you should use a tree strap always. But this was like, I couldn't get the keys off my key. I couldn't turn the car off because it was in the water. And that was like that was probably really stressful, like, because I didn't really know a lot about four-wheel driving then. I was just like, get my car out. Like, it was a bit, I have a photo on my Instagram, like, way back. I'm covered head to toe in mud. I just got out the window, like, was running out the winch, and like, my friends didn't know anything about wheeling either, so I had to actually get out, leave the car running.
Yourself.
Yeah.
That sounds fun, though.
It was an experience, like, driving the car home. There's mud, like, when we drove out of there, like, the whole road was like just mud. I'm head to toe in mud. My friends are head to toe in mud in the car. Had to get home, and that mud, if you leave it in your car, it stinks. Yeah. And I had carpet floors, ripped the whole interior out, just gurneyed everything. Let it dry out for a few days.
Sounds like a good mate of mine, Brandon. He's sank his cruise about 4 times already.
Oh my God.
Yep. Every time I see him, he's busy stripping his interior out and drying out.
Well,
Grace Edworthy wants to know, what made you choose your rig?
I think, like, I've always been a Toyota fan. Like, my family's Toyota fans.
Nice.
Obviously, the 100 series.
Good choice.
But I think I'd always seen, like, the cruisers as like farm utes, and like my parents have a farm, and I was like, this is a really cool car. They seem really capable. They're really reliable and trustworthy. And I wanted a Hilux initially to, like, it wasn't planning on being my like be all and end all car. Like, I always wanted a cruiser, but it was like at that time it wasn't in the budget, and I kind of just end up buying the Hilux, realised it was a lemon, was like, nah, I'll just bite the bullet and get the Cruiser. I don't know. It was just my dream car.
Nice.
I love it. I still love it to this day. Like every time I get in it, I actually feel like I get like really down if I don't have the Cruiser. Like if it's away getting stuff done and I'm like driving the Subaru around, I'm like, this sucks. I love
cool.
I just love driving it and touring with it.
So you wouldn't get rid of it?
I don't think it's never.
That's good. Bill Game wants to know, saw your rig at TuneWorks. Oh, we answered that one already.
Yeah.
Bailey, yes, asks, have you ever thought of building another brand of 4x4? If so, which one?
I've definitely thought about it. Like it's crossed my mind. Probably not in the short term, but I'd love to build like a GQ ute, I think. Because like less cab, coil all around already. I've never wheeled anything that's coil around. Like my car's always had leaves, and that's such a difference for wheeling. Like it's probably the main thing that holds me up in comparison to other people that I wheel with. Like the leaves will just stab into rocks. I'll get hung up on the hangers. Like,
yeah, with the new axle conversion, you don't have the leaves over the hangers, do you?
No,
it's still standard.
So like you can't do a leaf over legally now. Even like there was 60 series back in the day that got engineered leaf over, and from they've stopped doing it now. Like it's not possible to engineer those. The amount of chassis out there that are already engineered for it, I think that's it. Like
okay, interesting. So sorry, what you were saying, just the GK Patrol, you build one of those up.
Yeah. I think like having less cabin coil all around, like that'd be pretty cool. It'd be a different kind of, even a GU. Like my friend Brie, she wheels the crap out of her GU, and it's awesome. It's such a cool build.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is. It's a good looking GU.
Okay, final question. Got a trick question for you.
Oh god.
What is a ute called in Afrikaans?
Bakkie.
There we go. Well done. You got it.
It's the only Afrikaans word that I know.
I had a teacher that, so when you come to South Africa, you're ready to come wheel with us, as long as you call it a bakkie.
I know one word. Let's go to South Africa.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add, say, talk about?
No, I think that's it. It's covered like most of everything. Like
We'll probably do more content together when we're up in Cape York, and then when you come down and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I'll definitely come visit Oz again.
I'll definitely come visit South Africa. Like from all the videos I see now, the Cape Route Rally, like it looks insane what you guys are doing, and I love it.
Yeah, you'll love it there. So let's get warmed up. I'm freezing at the moment.
Yeah, it's so cold. Maybe beer time?
Yes. What time is it now?
5 o'clock somewhere?
Yeah, it's after lunchtime, so there you go. We'll go have some lunch, have a beer. We still have to go to the Guinness...
oh yeah.
What is it?
Guinness Factory.
Guinness Factory, yeah, as well. I don't drink beer, for those, my friends know that. I'm not a true German, I'm half German as well. So don't drink beer at all, but I tried a Guinness. I was had to try a Guinness with her mom.
Life's tough.
Yeah, and it was really nice. So I'm quite excited to go taste a Guinness again at the Guinness Factory.
It's definitely worth seeing if anyone comes to Dublin. Like Guinness Factory, we're at Trinity College.
For the
Book of Kells. Yeah.
And then tomorrow you fly out.
Yeah. Flying visit. Like, it's never long enough here. But yeah, back to Oz. Back to reality.
Back to wheeling.
Maybe cry on the plane. No, but I'm keen to see my car again and like go pick it up. I'm in Sydney like the first week I'm back, so pick up the car, drive it, and I'll just be like, you won't be able to wipe the smile off my face.
Nice. So Shanno4x4, that's your Instagram handle. If you want to see more about her, go check out there. Most of you already follow her, from what I know. You're pretty well known in South Africa. So yeah, there we go. That's that. Thank you.
Awesome.
And let's go get some lunch and a beer.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.